today. One of my Ficus Microcarpas, one that I picked up from a mom and pop nursery that I just happened to split into a bunch of trees. I actually got 4 trees. I've split them up into about 7 good sized ones and then a whole bunch of cuttings. This one has been in this pot for about 4.5 years. For the longest time I had intended on keeping it a clip and grow tree, and then just over the last few years I've kind of realized just more and more the value in wiring trees. I still keep a few clip and grows, especially some of my compound leaf trees. But about 6 months ago, actually almost 7 months ago, I gave a hard prune and got wire on just about every branch. And it is time the wire comes off. And so I'm just going to go ahead and do that process today. There are some really long shoots I'm going to take off. There's also a lot of twigs that are kind of growing down, growing straight up, and kind of coming out of the crotches of branches, etc. I will go ahead and do the pruning first. Try to get a little better shot where you guys can see just the canopy for a bit. And I'm just going to go in here and go at it. I hate to switch back and forth between the wire cutters and my pruners. Sometimes I get to working fast, especially when I'm trying to take a video. I don't want to bore you guys too much. I know I do the time lapse from time to time, but I still try to go fast just because I don't want to do nothing for any period of time, and I don't want to mix my wire cutters and my pruners up. I don't take great care of my pruners, but at the same time, I don't want to dent them up trying to cut wire with them either. And before I do completely shut up here, just so I can time lapse if I want to, if I lived anywhere but Florida, I probably wouldn't prune it right now. But I do live in Florida, and I have allowed it to build energy all summer long. This thing's got full, all kinds of energy built up and everything, so no problem there. And even though there is no problem, I still plan on leaving plenty of growth too. So there should be no issue when it comes to the health of the tree. Alright, and that's about all the foliage for now. I can see some of the smaller wires on some of the thinner branches actually cut in a little more than I could see. I was looking at some of the thicker wire and some of the bigger branches. But when I take the wire off, I'm inevitably going to knock off plenty of leaves and maybe even a couple of twigs. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with that. Alright, and I would imagine I'm going to wind up just editing a lot of that out and not even time lapsing it. Have to go so slow and try to be careful and not do any more damage to the tree than I can allow. And on some of the wires where I had like maybe a larger wire on a bigger branch and then put a smaller one on to try to catch one of the other smaller branches off to the side, my vision is so bad I had a hard time trying to decide which one was on top of which, so like I said, I'll have to cut a lot of that out. But I'm done with the upper canopy, and then I do have a couple things to address down lower. Alright, and down lower here, I've got this couple of foliage right here. And then there was another clump here. These are just some sprouts here. Take those off. There was another little bit here, and I think I know it's in one of my videos, I've mentioned both of them, how I really could do without. But the stumps that they're attached to are kind of attached to the rest of the tree, and I'd hate to kind of lose that and cause any dieback into the stump. That's actually what happened to one of my other clumps, is I had a stump in the middle of it, or a little tree in the middle of it, if you will, kind of die back in there, and it caused a bunch of rot in the middle, and then the whole clump just kind of fell apart. So I've been trying to keep them alive, and I do remember on the last video I was even considering not putting wire on this so it could go ahead and just kind of grow and not be hindered by the wire, but I wanted it to look like the rest of the tree, and it just kind of died back. I don't really know if the wire's the problem. I'm not a tree doctor. Pretty good at keeping things alive, but I'm not going to perform an autopsy on it or anything. But you can see it's all really died back, just kind of broke apart there and everything, the two branches. So I'm going to see if it'll just break. And it won't, so I'm probably going to try to take the knob cutters here. And you can even see there it's not back to live material there. Yeah, dead all the way through. Well, I'm going to hope that doesn't affect the rest of the tree. I guess time will tell. Might have to address it on the next repot, but I really wasn't planning on doing that super soon. I am a little bit worried about this being a bulb pot, and the roots getting trapped in there pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and get the wire off down here. Somehow this little side here is remaining good and healthy, so that's a good thing. And get that off there. I didn't do any pruning down here. Surprisingly enough, none of these twigs are really in like super awkward positions. Again, it's one of those things of whenever I do go to repot, I've thought about trying to wiggle that whole branch there and seeing if it'll just come loose and I can make a little tiny tree out of it. Or maybe even if I can trace it back there far enough, go ahead and cut it off, because I don't really think it contributes much to the design of the tree. This one either, but I've just been keeping it alive because maybe it'll help draw the nabari this way. I mean, with the clump of roots this thing has on it, I don't think I got a real problem with having a bad nabari. Anyway, it's more of a banyan style than really looking for surface roots on it anyhow. While I've got this in a little close up here, I do see a lot of people get a little freaked out when they get this kind of stuff. I get it all the time. Actually, the way I'm holding it is kind of awkward here and I can't really see what I'm doing. There we go. I get it all the time, and I've actually had a few of my trees that are sitting on pallets, kept them from blowing over in the storms because they were rooted into the pallet. So sometimes it's a good thing. It definitely means the tree's healthy. It doesn't hurt anything. Alright, and one last look at the whole thing here. Can't really see the structure too terribly well because I didn't prune it hard. But since it's going into winter, the little bit of foliage it lost, it certainly won't miss. It doesn't need all that to go through the winter. Some of this will kind of start, I imagine I did some damage probably when I took off the wires. I'll see a little yellowing. And I'll go out there every now and again and just kind of help some of the yellowing leaves fall off. But early next spring, what I'll plan to do is come in and get every growing tip, maybe even cut it back just a little bit more than I did the last time. See if I feel like it needs wire at that moment, but then I'd like to really let it kind of go for another summer and maybe even give it a couple little hedges through the summer and everything just to kind of maybe get a little more shape going to it, a little bit of a thicker canopy, and then perhaps maybe this time again next year going in and trying to do some more twig selection and then maybe get some wire on it through the winter, and then I can leave it on through the winter. I mean, I did leave this on 6 months. I don't know if you guys can really see, there's some marks, but it really isn't too terrible wire bite or anything. I'm actually going to grab another tree and do a quick look at a little tiger bark that I have. I've been waiting to kind of work on my other ones, but the wires just bit in way too much on that one. I got to get it off now. It'll just take a few minutes here. Alright, and just a little added bonus, I got this little tiger bark here. This is a cutting, I think coming up on about 4 years old. Maybe this spring it'll be 4 years old. I recently repotted it in this super flat pot here, just hoping that it can kind of spread out. Some of my smaller cuttings that I've just been kind of happy to keep small, I'd like to go ahead and be able to work the roots a little bit more and have a little bit of a better Nebaria than I might have on something that's been grown out to just get super thick. I've always kind of thought of this being in the front, and then, I mean, I guess the bothersome part I have right now is that branch is thinner than this branch, and then I have this back branch back here that's thicker than both of them. Not really sure how I let that happen, since I've been trying to control it since it's been a cutting and everything, but today I am going to just cut everything back really hard. You can probably even see this is kind of growing way out of shape. Once I get to the wire, you will see that it is cut way deep in. I didn't really quite do that completely on purpose, but I figure at this point, since I'm going to cut it back, sometimes I've even heard that if you scar the trunk, you'll get some back buds there. So I'm hoping maybe I'll get some really just a ton of back buds over the winter. And if I do, and it doesn't look like it's getting too like I don't know, like oblong or out of shape or anything like that, I think I'll let it go for quite a while through next spring. Again, just trying to get this Nebaria going. I think it has been in this pot just around a year, and so I would like to just, you know, get a lot of foliage, get a lot of root growth, and then whenever I go to repot it again, just go ahead and give it another cut back. Even on branches I'm keeping, I will be cutting back pretty much every growing tip. Up here, I got like a chop here, one here, of where I've just kind of worked the apex back. And I'm going to go ahead and nab it back to there. That's coming right up off, straight up off the trunk. I can't keep that. I think I'll go ahead and get that growing tip too. Alright, and then get this wire off. Alright, and after just kind of looking at things, I'm even going to go ahead and cut back a little bit more for taper. with the exception of perhaps the third branch being a lot thicker than the second branch. Pretty happy with the way most of the branches are kind of set here. That's really long there. And I think that's a little bit better. I did want to keep it compact without a whole lot of big chops. And those aren't really big chops there. Should back bud quite nicely.